Today on The Nation Speaks, January 6 defendants have been through an anguishing year in ways no simple headline could ever capture. WalkAway founder Brandon Strack talks to us while under house arrest about his ordeal, including now being on a TSA terrorism watch list. Then in America Q&A we ask, how do you react when someone expresses a political opinion you don't agree with? Next, for J6 defendant Matthew Perna, the psychological pressure of the last year ultimately crushed his spirit and he took his life. His aunt, Geri Perna, shares what he and the family have been through. Finally, in our second America Q&A, as a new judge is added to the highest court, we ask if you think there should be term limits for Supreme Court justices. Hello and welcome to The Nation Speaks. I'm your host, Cindy Drucare. The events of January 6th have etched an indelible scar on the American psyche, in radically different ways, to be sure, depending on your view of the day's events. Some believe the breach of the Capitol was a pre-planned armed insurrection meant to overthrow the government. To date, there's no evidence to support that. The diametrically opposite view is that hundreds of thousands went to Washington because they believed the country's electoral process was deeply compromised in the 2020 vote, and they went to demand accountability. That a mob mentality set in and everything spun out of control. The commonality between the two positions is an expressed belief in the sanctity of American justice. However, after what many January 6 defendants have been through over the last year, that faith in the justice system has been severely damaged. We have with us today two guests with pretty sobering personal accounts of how J6 defendants are being treated. We're joined first by Brandon Strack, founder of the WalkAway movement, who became a popular conservative influencer after he famously left the left in a viral video in May 2018. Brandon, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're at home right now wearing an ankle monitor under house arrest as part of your sentence under a plea deal. I want to focus on everything that's happened to you over the last year, but could you start just by summing up what you did at the Capitol on January 6th and what you were charged with?
Sure. So I was actually scheduled to be a speaker at an event at the Capitol. The plan, as I understood it, was always that President Trump, along with a number of other speakers, would be speaking at an event at the Ellipse, followed by a march to the Capitol, followed by a permitted event with dozens and dozens of speakers, and I was scheduled to be one of them. So as I was approaching the Capitol, I was coming in from the east side, and I began getting messages from people that I knew who were at home watching on television saying things like, we're hearing that people are going inside the building, and I didn't really understand exactly what that meant. So I began filming a video at that point because to me it sounded like something unusual was taking place, and if that was the case, I wanted to make sure that I could document whatever I could possibly document to later show to my about 1 million followers. And so I entered the east side of the Capitol grounds, and what I think is very relevant and interesting about my video is that if you watch the video, what you'll see is that there are 0 police officers in this video. There's nobody on the grounds saying, get out of here, you're not allowed to be here.
Just to interrupt for a second, just to make it clear for everyone, the west side is where all the violence and tear gas was happening, and you were on the east side.
Correct.
For one J6 defendant, his ordeal is finally over, but for his family, it is not. On February 25th, Matthew Perna took his life. In his widely read obituary, his aunt, Geri Perna, wrote that Matthew died of a broken heart. She joins us now. Geri, I am so deeply sorry for your loss. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about Matt and what he did on January 6th?
Matt went to the Stop the Steal rally with the expectation of celebrating at this event because he thought Mike Pence was not going to certify the election, and it was going to be a day of celebration to welcome President Trump back in for another term, basically. He had no intention of being part of a protest, silent or otherwise, no intention whatsoever. But as the crowd got closer to the Capitol, he was inside this crowd of people, and the way he explained it was elbow to elbow. You could not move. and he was there with a friend that walked through with him, and they came to an open door that had previously been breached. He had his cell phone in his hand. He recorded as he went in, and the timestamp when he was outside of the Capitol was 2:52, and Congress had adjourned and evacuated at 2:15. There were Capitol Police officers standing there, allowing people in, waving them in, and Matt went in with his cell phone and did a Facebook Live. He stayed within the velvet ropes in the rotunda. He didn't touch anything. He didn't break anything. He didn't steal anything. He didn't go inside any of the offices. And with the police standing there, who would think you were going to get in trouble if the police were saying nothing but come on in? So when he left there that day, he had no idea what was about to take place. As many of the January 6th, they were clueless.
How did things unfold for Matt?
It was a few days later, and somebody on Facebook said that they had photographs of the January 6 people that went into the Capitol on the FBI site. And I went to the site and I scrolled down, and lo and behold, Matt's picture was there, and my heart just sunk. Immediate panic took over. So by 9 o'clock, Matt had already called the FBI to tell them that that was him. So the FBI came to my brother's home, where they questioned Matt, and Matt told them everything. And so they took his statement, and it was about at that point I said, we need to get a lawyer. I don't have a good feeling about this. So we retained a lawyer, and then lo and behold, the FBI called a few days later, and they wanted to ask some more questions. But in fact, it was not about asking questions. They just came to arrest him. So they arrested him, and they processed him in 3 hours, and he was released.
Okay, what happened next?